everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Mindy Banks. I'm the Flip Flop Chef. Today I'm going to show you how to measure flour using measuring cups or a kitchen scale. So let's go ahead and get started. If this is your first video with me, please hit the subscribe button while you're here so that you're notified anytime I post new videos. And also make sure you go to theflipflopchef.com. There's a button at the top of that page so that you can join my recipe community, which has thousands of recipes, and I also have a weekly giveaway every single Friday. So let's go ahead and get started. I know most of you might be thinking, well, I already know how to measure flour, but I've had some personal requests for this video because people are learning how to bake their own bread, and if you don't know how to measure the flour properly, your bread is not going to turn out the way that you're hoping and expecting. So it's really important that you know how to measure flour when you are baking. Now, cooking and baking are totally different. If you're cooking, I always say you can just throw whatever ingredients in. If it looks good, you can make up whatever you're doing. But with baking, it's really important that you have very precise measurements so that you don't have too much flour or too little flour. So in baking, measurements are really important. So let's go ahead and talk about how you can measure flour using a kitchen scale. So for the kitchen scale, what you're going to want to do, now this is from the Pampered Chef, and this is something that you can purchase from me since I'm a consultant. So if you'd like to shop with me, I would love the opportunity to earn your business. I'll take great care of you. But this Pampered Chef scale is pretty cool. So it has several different measurements. You can choose, there's a unit button on here, and if you press that unit button, you're not going to probably be able to see this digitally in here, but I'll put this closer. So you have choices. It has pounds, you press it again, and it's going to change to ounces. Press it again, and it's going to change to grams. So you have multiple different options for using this scale. Now this tare button is also a power on off button, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this back on, and then I'm going to put it on my counter. We're going to put the bowl on the scale, and then we'll press the tare button. Basically that tare button, T-A-R-E, means to reset the scale to 0. So I'm going to press it right now, and it resets it to 0, and then you can put the bowl on here. Well, this bowl weighs almost 24 ounces. So instead of trying to do math and taking away those extra 24 ounces to get your exact amount, at this point you're going to just press tare again, and it resets it to 0. Now I have some all-purpose flour in here, and I keep a scoop in here also. You're going to kind of want to fluff your flour before you measure it, especially if you're using a measuring cup, which we'll do here in a minute. 1 cup of flour is about 4.5 ounces when you're measuring it like this in a scale. So I'm going to just put in a little bit of this here, and so we're up to 2 ounces. So you can always take away also. So we're just going to add a little bit more. Okay, so I got a little bit too much, so we can just take this scoop and let's see, just gently add a little bit back in. We're almost there, almost there. And so this way you can get that perfect 4.5 ounce measurement when you're measuring flour with a scale. So I'm not actually making anything with this flour, so I'm going to toss it back into the container, and then I'm going to show you how to measure using dry measuring cups. Now, there are dry and liquid measuring cups, and they each have different, you want to not use dry to measure liquid, and you don't want to use a liquid measuring cup to measure dry. It's really important that you use the right measuring cup for the right ingredients. And so I love Pampered Chef's measuring cup set here, because they all snap together nicely. You have this little piece on the top. This is a leveler. So my mom, when I was a kid, she taught me how to measure flour, and we just used a butter knife, and we just scraped the top off of the measuring cup, and that's how we leveled it. And you could certainly use a butter knife in your kitchen drawer. But if you have Pampered Chef's measuring cup set, then you're gonna get this leveler along with that. So I'm just gonna measure 1 cup of flour. And remember what I said before, you're gonna kind of wanna fluff that flour. So if you have your flour stored in a bag, it does make it really hard to get accurate measurements unless you're pouring it into a bowl first. So I recommend some kind of a container that you can leave it in, that your hand will fit in and out of very well, and that you can level over the top. I'm using a modular mate. These are from Tupperware. I don't sell Tupperware, but I can help you if you need somebody to purchase that from. So you're gonna kind of make like this little mountain of flour, so to speak, and then you're gonna just scrape it off. And you notice I didn't pack that down. So let me show you the difference. So a lot of people, when they're measuring their flour with a measuring cup like this, they scoop it out and that's how they get their measurement. But you're gonna actually, it kind of packs it down. So if I wanted to pack this flour, you could pack it down just like this, and you can see that now we still have about what looks like 1 cup of flour, but this is packed flour. So let's just see, just for curiosity, how much that weighs when we measure it out here. So I'm gonna tare, so reset to 0, put the bowl on here, reset again, and I do have a little bit of flour in there, but let's just see. So this is 5.39 ounces, and remember, 1 cup of flour is 4.5 ounces when you measure it on a kitchen scale. So this is a really good example of why you need to make sure that you're measuring your flour correctly. So let me show you another fun thing. If you are a baker and you like to bake cakes and things like that, a lot of recipes tell you that you need to sift flour. Now I know sifting flour is what our grandmothers did. I know my grandmother did. She had a really, really big sifter that she used anytime that she made cakes. So I found this sifter here, and I like it because it's actually kind of small. So it's good for like a cup of flour at a time. And you're just gonna kind of squeeze the handle, and it actually sifts the flour. So I'm gonna just pour this over the bowl, and I didn't measure this because like I said, I'm not actually cooking anything, but this is sifting the flour for you. And so it's kind of like taking out all those lumps. It's gonna help you have a much better product when you are cooking. So I'm gonna shake that a little bit, get those pieces down in there, and it almost looks like powdered sugar instead of flour when you go through that sifting process. Now, some recipes will tell you to sift the flour before you measure it. Other recipes will tell you to sift the flour after you measure it. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that if you have a recipe that you're supposed to sift. So I hope that this is helpful for you when you are measuring, and of course you can apply this to most any dry ingredient. Of course, flour, you need to fluff it. Other things you can just scoop out, like if you're measuring rice, you could just use the scoop it straight out, and you either scrape it off the top with your hand or use that leveler. But you want to make sure you use liquid measuring cups for liquid, and you want to make sure you use dry measuring cups for dry ingredients. Now, when you're measuring brown sugar, almost always the recipe will tell you to have it packed. So this is not brown sugar. Let me grab one of these just so that it's a smaller measurement here. But what you would do for that is you kind of dig down into your container, and I like to just sort of like press, get it really nice and packed, and then you'll have packed brown sugar. So just to give you a couple of different examples of what it means to measure packed and not packed. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. It's gonna come in really handy when you are making your own homemade bread, and of course, all of your other baked goods will be even more delicious when you make sure that you get that flour measured correctly. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget to subscribe while you're here, and go to theflipflopchef.com and join my recipe community. I'll see you guys soon. Bye, everyone.